Because we are already on the hour and we have everyone almost on screen, I would like to say very good morning to you all and welcome to our fourth session in the Arab Household Saving Conference. And this is our first session for today. And yesterday we had a fantastic 3 sessions tackling the economics of household savings and their significance to both households' financial resilience and government national economies. Then we had how, if we are to turn the MENA region's economies to saving economies, what sort of culture, what sort of products we need to build. And then we had a fantastic also session in the afternoon with the participation of a very nice expert from George Washington University. And we tackled financial literacy and the nice refreshing research they have been doing for years in US and how they reflect somehow on other countries and communities, especially in the Middle East. And we continue the debate today and benefiting from whatever was said and crystallized yesterday. By way of me allowing you to introduce yourself, I'd like to also to start with this point that yesterday the panelists said it's not enough to educate people on the need to save. It's not enough to increase financial literacy. It's also important to allow families and households access to good saving products, be it from bank, insurance, asset managers, and so on. So I'd like to start by me inviting you to introduce yourself, introduce your organizations, but also to explain to me as you introduce yourself, how each of your institution is allowing people, allowing households, allowing clients to have access to savings products, and what is specifically what saving products your bank or your insurance company or your asset management company is offering that helps people saving. And I'd like to start with Mrs. Dalal, please.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, gentlemen. So my name is Dalal. I'm the Chief Retail Banking in Bahrain Islamic Bank with experience of total 20 years between here and other international banks, being manager region and now managing country. I work for Bahrain Islamic Bank for the last 3 years. Bahrain Islamic Bank considered the first Islamic banks in Bahrain with an establishment of almost over 41 years in Bahrain. A bank with full range of a product, cover different aspects, whether it's retail or a corporate, with a different speed. From where I sit, I mainly look at individuals and at different age, different nationality, with different need and different wealth. So how I do see saving, or from a personal prospect or an organization. Saving considered a key pillar to Bahrain Islamic Bank. It is part of a basic product and part of as well innovative product that the bank keep releasing from time to time. We do offer different range from a very simple product of a saving, which is as simple as saving account, or with little bit of a flavor like Aqra. One of the products that we have is part of our vanilla product called Aqra, where an individual, despite that individual is an employed or non-employed, as long as it can contribute as minimum as $90 a month, the account will earn a profit, and there should be a monthly contribution. So it keep accumulating, and the profit as well keep accumulating on a monthly basis. So as basic as that, and we offer as complicated a product, which is a mixed basket between diversified fund, diversified sukuk, diversified underlying fixed deposit to make a different portfolio that enable an individual to save. Besides that,
Dalal, let me interrupt. But you said something very interesting. I wasn't aware of it. Like 99% of the population in Bahrain, they know BISB to take loans, mortgages, they participate in raffles. But you just mentioned something, it's like music to my ears. You have a basket of diversified products and assets. But not a lot of people in Bahrain are aware of this, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Okay. Has the awareness of people has changed? I can tell you yes. And pandemic had played a significant to that change. I'll be very honest about it. So the number of query that we received recently toward what kind of a product, guys, you have to save has changed to what used to be before. I totally agree. Client used to be interested to take a financing, take that amount, either buy a car, whether to go for a holiday, do some construction, and then they pay a monthly installment. And there are clients where they believe on that lucky draw and they put their fund on a concept of like Tijuri, saving certificate, and hopefully they become a winner. But equally, there are a very decent segment where they contribute in the product that I've said about it called Aqra, which is very basic, $90 a month. For 18 months, the minimum load period, you earn a profit into it. But on what I've highlighted on the mixer product, it is very much for an individual who's got a bit of liquidity and don't want to use it right now. For a person of a mid and high salary, where there are part of their salary that they don't use on a monthly basis. So we do help them on structuring it by giving some offers. Okay, you can use a mix of basket as long as your basket has got two elements. One, diversity. Second, liquidity. Because I think these two are very critical in any saving plan. Because you should be able to have an access to your cash at any point of time and should be diversified because God forbid if the market go north in some area or south, there is other part of your portfolio is actually heading north. So we do kind of give an advice by saying, okay, our suggestion, why don't you distribute your liquid cash or excess cash between liquidity as basic as fixed deposit, and then you could go for a sukuk, which is a mid-range, or you go for an insurance approach, a higher, longer term. So we do combine everything together to come up with a decent return that individuals are looking for, and the portfolio will diversified and liquid. Yes, maybe not very much. We don't publicize it very much because it's one-to-one and usually happen with the relationship manager based on the availability of the product that we have as an approved product.
Thank you, Dalal. Thank you. Brother Omar?
Yes, hi. First of all, thank you, Ebrahim, for inviting me to speak in this event. I'm happy to be here. I think it's very useful. And I enjoyed the last session. So we are building up on that now on the technical level. So I think this is very useful. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Omar Al Aseeri. I am the head of life insurance in BNL. And we are at BNL are the only local insurance company who exclusively sells life and medical insurance products. We've been established since year 2000. And so that we've been here for 21 years so far. And we definitely do aim to provide savings products to the market. And we do see an increasing need in the market for that. As Dalal said, maybe I would say previously this was not a priority for the average household, going into the market and asking for saving products. But now with the COVID situation, I think it opened a lot of people's eyes into how they should manage their funds in a better way, an efficient way. So they do contact us. We've seen a very large or a very high frequency of contacts asking us about savings products. And we, luckily, we do have quite a few that will fit different people for different circumstances. So these individuals, when they approach a life insurance company, they need to know, first of all, what is their objective? What do they want from a savings plan? Is it to save for the education of a child, or is it save for a specific time in the future, for example, for higher education. There are a lot of ways that they can customize a product when they come to contact an insurance company. Now, the reason why I say that there is a need to be filled is that Bahrain, I'm going to talk about Bahrain as a local market now. Bahrain used to have much higher financial support from the governments, and we are we're slowly seeing some restrictions right now. You know, people have been used to public subsidized housing. They've been used to public health care, subsidized utility bills and gas, you know, even education. There's public education now. They are leaning towards private education. So all of these now translate into increased cost to the individual, whereas maybe historically they did not used to think of these as expenses. So the client is definitely, or the individual is definitely much more aware and conscious of what to spend and what not to spend. And there is a lot more interest, and I do see that there is a lot more financial literacy also when they come and when the individual contacts you. Of course, this depends on the segment, but let's say a middle-aged breadwinner calls you and he asks you for information. Generally, these breadwinners are very conservative in nature in their investments. They want to take care of their families, their households, and they do not want to invest in high-risk assets. So when they come and contact us on these things, we offer them under life insurance these conservative, good yielding products, and a lot of them are linked to education, and which guarantees the education of the child in the future. So these investment plans, they're on for, and they're very flexible. They're on for 10, 15, 20 years, and the premium can be, or the cost can be very low, for as low as 30 or 35 BD a month. So maybe the average individual will think, oh, I can't save, the cost is too high. But you know, the monthly cost can be as low as the equivalent of a phone bill. So they can actually afford to save, and maybe it's just that old mentality that, you know, if I want to save, I'll have to save a large amount for it to be worth it, when actually that's not the case. It's better to start in small steps and then slowly accumulate your wealth over time. And it's always, the point is to invest in appreciating assets, not depreciating assets. So one of these vehicles is through life insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Ad. That's fantastic. I think a lot of insights from what Dalal said and what you said as well. I'll come back to these points. Maybe just to follow the pictures on screen, we now move to Patrick. Patrick, Amundi is an international or maybe global and maybe Europe's largest money managers. How do you see savings from your perspectives, and how much you allow people access? I mean, what Amundi is doing, how much of that is allowing people in the region and globally access to savings, products, and solutions?
Thank you, Ebrahim. Yes, actually, as you said, Amundi is number one in Europe and one of the top 10 globally, with north of $2 trillion of asset under management, with a diversified range of products and various type of clients, from institutional to retail network and insurance company as well. I'm working in the Amundi employee savings and retirement solutions, so meaning I'm more on the retirement side. So we are basically just for this business line, which is fully integrated into Amundi, we manage 82 billion US, and we cover actually employee shareholding plans, employee savings plan, and employee retirement plan. So we have a long experience of doing that. With regards to saving, I think so the level of saving is different according to region, for sure. But I think we have to answer one question: what is the purpose of your savings, And I think how much you could save, maybe it could be an indication of how uncertain you feel about the future and your financial outlook. And I think to that extent, 2020 is a very good example, because we reach a very high level, historical high levels of savings, Of course, because you didn't have any opportunity available to spend your money. But when everything is closed, you cannot travel. Of course, possibility to spend is very small. But what I want to say here is that uncertainty leads to precautionary savings. That's savings that you want to be available at any time for unforeseen expenses. Then I would say you've got saving for a project, for example, to buy a house, just to finance your down payment. And you've got saving for retirement, which I feel very concerned about, just to complement your pension. And so people have to organize their saving according to these needs. And I think as a financial provider, as an asset manager, we have to make available products or solutions that can fit these different needs. That's what we do.
Thank you, Patrick. Brother Mohamed, I mean, just we need you to introduce yourself a little bit, Aqsa, and then back to our question is, how are you helping people access long-term saving products in the region?
Hello everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Ebrahim. So my name is Mohamed Seghir. I am the CEO of Aqsa Green Crescent, which is a life and health insurance company in the UAE. We are actually predominantly working on the life insurance products. I've been appointed 3 years ago, and I used to live before that in Europe, mostly in Germany and Switzerland. And for me, it was one of the findings when I came as well to the UAE. Very clearly, there was a lack of savings for very different aspects. There's clearly a lack of financial literacy among the population, but there is also a lack of products and solutions for the customers, because even those who are actually interested, they cannot find a structured information. And there was no real, I would say, involvement from the insurance industry. So I would really like to speak as basically an insurance professional on that side. And I think it's something that we developed in the last year, a product which is called Employee Secure Saver, which is targeted a bit like what Amundi is doing, but clearly at corporates, at companies, and not directly at individuals. You have two ways to look at the challenge of saving. Either you do it directly with the individuals, or you do it through the companies. In the UAE, you have something which is called the end of service benefits, which is a gratuity that you accumulate during your service for a company. And this represents roughly 1 month per year that you work for a company. And as you know, especially in the Gulf, we have mostly expats. And actually, there is a huge pension gap for expats, which is due to the fact also because they think that this 1 month per year that they're going to save is going to be enough for them, which is clearly not the case. So, and then there is a number of other issues which were highlighted by the population when we did our surveys. One of the issues as well was the weakness of some of the currencies outside the UAE. You have expats coming from different countries, from India, from Lebanon, from Egypt, from other parts in Africa and so on. And they all also pointed out to the issue that if they save money back home, their currency is clearly not as strong as what Bahraini dinars or UAE dirhams will be, as they are pegged to the dollars. So coming out of all these kind of thoughts, we wanted really to develop something which is powerful, easy to understand, and capture an actual gap that we have on the market, which is the end of service benefits, which is not enough to actually accumulate what you will need the day you want to retire. So by doing that with this product, we really wanted to address a critical society issue on the markets. And also we wanted to make something in a very, I would say, agnostic way. So very flexible. The product, we are not fixing the program. Some company, they want to participate as well on top of the end of service benefits. Some they will ask employees to match the contribution. Some they will ask for 50% match and so on. So we didn't want to impose anything because every company has a different culture. They are all coming from a different background as well, and they have different objectives. So that's what we wanted to do to address the population needs. We are also developing an individual pension product, which is not on the shelves yet. It should be by the end of the summer, but basically it will be under the same philosophy, something very flexible, which addresses an actual need for the residents in the UAE. Sometimes I even debate the fact that we call the foreigners expats, because for me, in my understanding, expat is when you come for 1, 2, or 3 years mission in a country. What we see in the Gulf is that many people are here for 20 years plus. So as long as you are good to sit on your savings that you had back home for 1 or 2 years, after 20 years of your life, it's becoming a critical issue. And that's also to provide the population that kind of solution.
Thank you, Mohamed. Thank you so much. I think already several insights put forward by the panelists. I go back to what Dalal says, that their products like Iqra at BISB features both liquidity and diversity. And then Brother Omar said, it is always better or best to start even from low ticket, small saving, better than nothing. And then also Mohammed mentioned that a 1 month bonus or benefit for an end of service benefit is not adequate as a pension. But also he mentioned the flexibility in any products they do. I would like to take all this together and maybe pose a question and I say, I mean, right now I have a fantastic 4 panelists coming from banking, money management, and insurance. From where you sit, what do you think is the minimum or the basic characteristics of an ideal savings vehicle? And I would like to start, maybe this question is more relevant to Patrick. I'll ask Patrick to answer this, and then I'll go around the table.
Thank you, Ebrahim. So I will answer from my perspective, which is retirement. And actually, it's very interesting because Mohamed has already touched on a few points which are very, very similar to the one I'm addressing with clients. Basically, mainly corporate clients, because we corporate clients basically want to set up DC for their employees. We are I think in a switch from a DB to DC globally. And so we work a lot with corporate who wants to just set up that kind of vehicle. I think maybe just a little bit of background, even if Mohamed already touched on it, but I think for many people, retirement is abstract because it's too far away, actually. And so they don't realize that they have to save for their retirement. But I think gradually, with the aging of population, there is an increasing awareness, which actually translates into a growing concern about retirement and the pension people will get. Because when you reach retirement, people, and as mentioned by Mohamed, will face a drop in their revenues. There will be a gap between their last income and their pension income. And in many countries, the replacement rate is decreasing. So it means what? It means that additional revenue is needed to complete this level of pension at retirement. Of course, it will depend on the pension scheme you have, whether you have a DB, a DC, a public scheme, private, whatever. But I think you will have anyway a drop in your revenue. And on top of that, we are living longer. And consequently, your retirement will last longer as well. So you will need, for sure, additional revenue. And that's why people have to think far ahead about retirement, and they have to prepare this retirement. And it can only be, I think, achieved by saving early, by saving regularly, and by saving significantly. I think this is just the background. But saving is one thing, but then, of course, you have to invest properly. I think it's even more crucial. And when you save for retirement, it's a very, very long-term savings. and the investment strategy should be adapted to this specific goal, which could be 20, 30 years ahead. So what we propose, I won't elaborate on it, but we propose an investment strategy that we call life cycle. That is well known, could be a target date fund if you are in the US, but basically it's the same philosophy in which we are adjusting the asset allocation over time. And that can be separated in two stages, accumulation and decumulation, if you have solutions that are going beyond retirement. And the objective is just to maximize the return under the constraints of capital preservation at maturity. That's what we do.
Excellent. Dalal, your perspective on this?
Sure. From where we sit as a region, Ebrahim, is people's the guarantee of the product or what they enter into is matter, because usually they do save into something that they believe is very critical to them. So it's either to go toward their kids' educations, or basically for their retirement, or basically for health reason. When they are at certain age, they are not insured by an insurance company. So the purpose of the savings matter. So usually, from where we sit as a region, people wanted to know 4 things. One is it capital guaranteed toward the end, what they're putting their money into? Is it liquid? Do they can access it? Is it Sharia compliant? Because that is something is the awareness level has been increasing over the couple of years, especially when they said, okay, I would love to put it in an investment product or an insurance product. Is it that Sharia compliant? Is it clear? And last, I think, is it diversified? So does it cover a different prospect from the market? So I think as a bank or any institute, if we manage to get all these 4 in one go, which is, yes, at least not capital guaranteed, partial guaranteed after a certain period of time. Has it been diversified across different assets product? Can it be liquid? And does it has to be Sharia compliant? Because I think this awareness has increased. So this, we put this in our prospect whenever we release something from where I sit as a Bahrain Islamic Bank, because we have seen the demand is very aggressive into it. But I think very importantly, because people awareness to saving has increased, but they are not liquid so much. So their ability to save is minimal. So they may start saving a bigger portion in the future, but they're happy to find a way to save a smaller portion. So it's about finding a product that gives them a decent return with the minimal money that they could save without impacting their day-to-day. So I think that is also very important from where I sit, that we could have on a saving weekend.
Beautiful, Dalal. Mohamed, liquidity and people's knowledge where their money is being invested and a decent return. This is what Dalal said. What's your perspective on the key features of an ideal savings product or a vehicle?
Yeah, I can only echo what Dalal and Patrick said. Actually, I absolutely agree with that. On the nature of the investments, Dalal mentioned the Sharia compliant aspects, and I think it's very true, and it's even more general. People are looking for ethic way of investing. They want to know that their money is being put in the right place, is not being used to support companies they don't like, companies which don't behave in the interest of the, let's say, of the world population. And I think it's something which has become very, very relevant in many jurisdictions, not only in the Middle East, but even in Europe or North America. You can see this trend is building up. And I think that in the Middle East, because of the Sharia aspect, this was something which was actually already a bit more understood, a bit earlier than in other populations. And I have to say, I'm very happy as well to see that, because there should be an ethic attached to, or your own ethic as a customer attached to your assets. So I really like the connection we can make here. I agree then on the product for the flexibility part for many things. I think the only thing that I would like to stress on is the mobility or the portability of the product, which is a key. I have a very good friend of mine. He's German. He worked all of his life, or most of his life, in the Middle East, in many different countries, and he wants to retire in Malaysia. So his retirement is he built it up himself, but he got such a path in his life that he lived in 10 countries, I think, 10 different countries, and he wants to retire in one where he never lived. So we also need to find ways, you know, to respond to this mobility aspect. One of them, as I mentioned before, was the currency. Clearly, have a USD-based currency can help in this mobility. And when I speak to many customers, very often, you know, it's one of the first questions they ask. So when I will get my pension, do I need to be still a resident in the country, or can I go somewhere else, back home, and so on? And I think that it's always a very healthy question that people are asking, because when they project themselves long enough to actually the maturity of the product, it means that they actually understood the product and consider it. And for the other aspects, I really second Patrick's view as well on the on what the customers or the corporate clients are actually looking for. I think it's still building awareness and knowledge on the market. I can see that I have some discussion today with some clients. I had discussion with the same client 1 year ago, and actually the discussion has drifted in the meantime. Of course, there was the COVID crisis in the middle, and people are a bit more aware of their wellness, and we had many questions around mental health as well. And actually, we see that financial wellness is helping for your physical wellness and your mental health. So that's part of the new kind of questions. And I think that this kind of question, if you ask me the same in 1 year, this will have changed a little bit as well.
Thank you. I'd like to come to Brother Omar, maybe for the same question, but also if we can start with you, Mr. Omar, another question. Do you think, from where you said that people and the clients and the community in the Arab world understands the small differences, the very features that you just mentioned, diversification, the impact of currency, liquidity, short-term versus long-term, do you think people understand this, and they also understand the different features that weaken between probably cash assets, equities, bonds, and so on? Do you think people understand these subtle differences when they choose a product? Mr. Omar.
Yes, thank you. I think in short, I would say that a small portion of the population actually understands this. And these are generally very financially literate proportion of the population. And when they do a call, you contact you, they basically know what they're looking for. Now, the average client, when he comes to contact you, what they do is they ask you for your professional advice. So they do not know exactly what they're getting into. So this is what makes it difficult for a customer to actually compare and contrast between two products or three or four, especially when it's about when we're looking at the whole financial sector that offers a lot of different products. So I think it's difficult to expect the average person to understand all of these things unless they are actually diving deep into it themselves and they're taking that initiative to understand these details. Now, during your last sessions, people were talking about how to raise awareness, awareness campaigns, whether the government should be involved in this. But it has to start at the early stages of life. I mean, it can even start at school. It can start at university. It even can even start within the household itself. Because I think, even in general, when you speak of a household, when they give an allowance to their child, they don't expect the child to save a portion of that allowance. I mean, the child is used to spending the whole allowance for that month. So that mentality, I think, it carries forward in life. And even when they graduate from the college and they start working, there's that mentality that, for the first few years, there's no need to really think about your expenses, just have fun in life. So this kind of education or these kinds of habits, they develop. And I think, like the other panelists said, over time, people don't realize that they're missing out on savings. So when that's why when you start at an early age, you commit yourself to these savings products at an early age, you reap a lot of benefits over the long term. And I don't think that knowledge, the customer is aware of that. So that answers the question whether I think the client understands that. So in summary, I don't think many of them do understand the benefits behind it. And frankly speaking, they find this topic, they might find this topic, boring unless they reach, let's say, an age where they have a lot of financial responsibilities. Then they start to weigh in, what should I have done? I wish I had done that in the past. So that's why I think that before the insurance company offers these products, well, I mean, they are available in the market. I think the education needs to start at an early age. It starts from the household, starts from the schools, starts from the institutes. And I think, BIBF and Bahrain Bourse are doing a great job. They're trying to educate the average consumer on these products. And, one of the steps for a person to try to assess what they need and what their objective is to first know, how much money can they put aside, or what is their objective when they put money aside. In general, when you approach a life insurance company, that these savings products are hybrid products. They are saving and life insurance products. So they serve, or they serve two objectives at the same time. So when a client approaches an insurance company, he can have the peace of mind that if he starts saving with using an insurance savings plan, he gets that investment return and he has that saving structure. And also, if in an unfortunate event, this person or the breadwinner passes away, there is a clause that waives the premium cost on that policy, and the policy keeps running and it keeps accumulating even in the passing of the breadwinner, and the maturity goes to whoever the beneficiary is. So once the person signs that policy, he guarantees that in life or death, this beneficiary will get that maturity amount. So there's that piece. So it offers peace of mind and an investment return. So in general, if you ask me, what would I suggest? I think if you're in the early stage of life, you look for long-term, because as the earlier you go, the lower the cost of these plans are to you. So as early as possible, as soon as you try to make your first paycheck, you go look for a policy. And if you're in the mid-age or middle cycle of your life, and you have responsibilities, and just now you've started to realize I need to look for these, that's no problem. And there are a lot of policies that are customized for that. If you think you need to save up for your children's education, I mean, you have a child that's 3 years old, and you want to have saved up enough to pay for his college fund by the time he's 21, you can start a plan. And there's that life insurance element to that, and there's an investment return element to that. So I think child education is a very important aspect, especially in Bahrain with the private education costs going through the roof. So, and if you go and sit with anybody and have a private discussion with them who has children, this is one of the main topics. People complain about the costs to that. I think as costs go up, education goes up as well, and financial literacy.
Shukran. Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. Dalal, you sit and manage the retail space. Do you think the clients and people understand these products, and they know how they differentiate between them?
No, not really, to be frank. So the understanding level or knowledge is vary, to be honest, between a client and individual. And sometimes we do get a request where a customer want literally the moon in a hand. Yes, we could cater to a certain product, but I cannot compensate whatever he have lost or compensate the period of time that he have not started saving, correct? So the understanding level not really there. Yes, some of them will get impressed. They are clear on what they want. They are clear on the product, and they understand the return of the product. Some are not. Some are actually approaching the bank, wanting the bank to advise them something. So then here you rely on the bank credibility, on the bank product availabilities. As the product is available, suit the need, because it's saving a product is not about a product or a selling, it's about serving a need. So we, as a financial institution, if we understand the need, we'll be able to serve it better. But yes, do I see customer knowledge has changed? Yes. Does it come to the level that we expected as a person? No, I think there is a long way that we could go. I think we as a financial institution need to put extra effort and promoting saving concept, because the current promotion is mainly toward basic financing and credit card, but not really towards saving plan. But at least from where I do sit, and I'm saying that very proudly, Bahrain Islamic Bank cater to a different segment, and I think that is well known in the market. And youth is one of the segments that we cater on very aggressively. So if you see, we are one of the, we offer saving plan or saving account for very youth. So we used to offer saving account from people who's basic at the age of 15. And we recently have released kind of a fintech gadget product, which called the Future Leader, which is catered all the way from the age of 7. Because we as a bank, we are keen to get them young, teach them financial education, teach them saving. And then as they grow with us, they understand what the cycle. So we just
what's the name of this product, Dalal? We're very interested.
Future Leader. So we call
Future
it, yes. So it is nice, simple. Even the component of it, the product, it's come in a wearable, doesn't come in a card. So the kids wear it. So they use contactless on their doing transaction. They see their transaction happening on a full app. Parents can take that extra money and save it. So it's a mixed joint between the parent and the kids and the financial institution. I'm glad we're one of the banks which we're taking a lead on at least putting that financial education and saving very much early at the age of 7.
Since when was this launched, Dalal, and is there a good traction on it?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. We launched it on 11 May, just recently, this month.
This month? Okay.
Just recently.
Okay, so we have some surprise launches, like Mohamed also has this employee secure saver or saving, and you have this as well. So it's good. I think this platform is allowing us to maybe publish new breaking news and some new products coming to the region. That's excellent to hear.
No, and it's nice. It's the first in Bahrain. It's the first concept. We don't have similar. The product is beautiful. And we're taking it through phases. So this is the phase 1. Phase 2, we're taking it through school. So we're controlling the payment and controlling payment. We are about to sign one of the biggest deals, one of the largest private schools in Bahrain, on how we put that into the school and teach the kids about it, and how can we make that product offer available to each and everyone, including parents and kids. So yes, we're moving forward. Hopefully, we will see that positive impact on the community and the culture.
Yes, let me go back to what the delegates are putting in terms of a question. I have a question I think I'll be passing to Mohamed. It's from Natasha Baina, and it says, how best can life or health insurance be blended with superannuation or pension, especially when you have mandatory occupational DC schemes? Mr. Mohamed, what's your take on this question?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's a very good question. I would say it's clearly a question which is being asked in sophisticated markets and more mature markets like in the UK, in Europe, or in North America. For me, clearly, especially as the Arab region is concerned, the need is really on the life side to have a protection on the life side. Omar mentioned before that actually there is a goal like education of the child and so on, and that in case of death or life, we want actually this money to be provided to the child for marriage, for education, or whatever need can arise. And I think that the life component can be very good, because in case of a death or in case of a disability and the insured cannot contribute anymore to the pension, he or she still has some needs and financial needs towards the goal of the products. And I think that for me, I always see savings very closely linked to pension, to protection. It's a bit of my background as well as an actuary, but for me, I like the blend of these two products, because I think that what is your objective when you save is for future goal, a future financial goal, and it's not because somebody dies or get a disability that this actually goal is going away. So the goal is still here, that you want to save for your kid once they go and once they reach to the university age. So what happens, what you want is that during this period of time in which you want to save, you want actually the accumulation to be that much at the end of this period.
Excellent. We have a couple of questions. I think I'll combine them and give them to Patrick. Question one says, which saving products can we use to obtain the best returns? And another question says, can the panelists explain to us which of these is better for the savings, fixed deposit, bank raffle draw account, or life policy? Patrick, you come from the asset management side and in charge of probably a saving performance and decent returns. What's your take on these two combined questions?
Well, first, on your first question regarding, how to have the best return, I think it's a tough question, because it's just, you have to take into account different parameters, and especially your investment horizon. I think we are back to investment horizon, expected return, and risk you are ready to take. The higher risk you take, the higher return you can expect. And you have to consider this within the investment horizon. So I wouldn't say there is one product to do that. You have to take all these parameters into account and then select the right product. If I'm back to retirement, retirement is a very long-term horizon. So that is why you can take risk. For example, in our life cycle products, so we have here again a different level of risk profile, but for someone who is not adverse to risk, we can start when you are 30 years to retirement with 100% of equity. And then gradually, when you are approaching the retirement date, we are de-risking the portfolio in order to end up with, to protect the capital, to protect, all the accumulated assets that have been achieved through, the investments. And then gradually we de-risk this portfolio.
Excellent. Excellent. There is one question I think Mr. Omar touched upon at the outset of the session, which is to what extent is the current pandemic and its bearing on people's lives, jobs, and incomes becoming a trigger for families to be more serious about savings? Anybody would like to touch upon this, or you feel we covered it already? I leave it to you.
Maybe I can just say one word, which was actually what I said at the beginning. I think during the pandemic, you had no choice. You cannot spend any money. So that is why, we, in certain countries, I think in France, for example, but even in Europe, I think we reach like 20% of savings, which is usually it is below 10. And I think OECD is a little bit below 10, but Europe is even around 5%. So meaning that people have saved a lot because they had no choice. So now maybe they will reconsider how to save better, maybe because they won't spend all their money. But I think that here we have a role to play, and I'm glad to hear that there are many products that have been launched on the market that can address all these needs, probably.
Maybe the pandemic is not only left people without choice because they are staying at home and not spending much, but also the pandemic has exposed millions of people around the world. Suddenly they are out of job, or they lost income, or at least partial of their income, especially if they are not employed, they are in the informal industry, they had a restaurant or a travel agency or or a transport business that is suddenly shut down and they are out of any income, I think so that exposes them sort of. There is one question. There is one question in the coming from the QA, and I think Mohamed is the most qualified to answer it because he is an Arab and living in Europe and now coming to us, and he's in the insurance as a CEO. The question says, do you see that people in the MENA region broadly understand and buy life products? Because in the past 30 or 40 years, there was some reluctance or misconceptions or misperception around life products in general. Please.
Yeah, so this is still an ongoing issue. Actually, there is a lot of reluctance from people to buy life insurance. And actually, you can see, and even some of the questions that we had for when it comes to savings and life savings products, there are many questions on the pure investments, return, how much it can return and so on, because we still see life insurance products as an investment product. So a saving product is not purely an investment product. It has an investment component, but we do it to meet a goal and to protect ourselves to make sure that this goal is going to be reached. So there is clearly a misconception around insurance because of religion. We think that it's necessarily haram, which is not the case. So there are haram components that we can work on, that we can change as well. But it takes a whole industry as well to change them. There is a misconception as well because we think it's a luxury. We think it's only for the rich people. And actually, in your point before, Ebrahim, you mentioned the fact of the informal sector of the economy, which is huge. From Morocco to Iraq, this is a huge portion of the population which works in informal sectors. And they actually need more protection than the others. Because when you're an employee from an established company and so on, in case of a COVID-19 pandemic, you get some assurance, some guarantees from your company that you don't get. When you're informal, your business is shutting down from a day to another. It has been the case in my home country, in Algeria, for many people. And actually, when you look at that, you need this. And there's this conception so that it's a luxury. Life insurance is a luxury, which is not the case. And there's a conception as well, it's not for us because we have the family solidarity, we are young, we have young demographics in our country. But like in every country, this demographic is going to reach an inflection point where we will be actually more older people than younger people. Today, it's a reality, but this shift is already happening in the Arab world, that we go from very, very young population to older populations. So when you have older populations which overrun the number of the active population, then we come in a situation where people will say, actually, life insurance, it's also for us. And just a side comment for me, because as you said, I came from Europe, I grew up there, I've seen many things as well from there. The life insurance has a lot of misconception in Europe as well. So if you speak to anybody on the streets, people don't get it and don't see the value of it. If there was not tax incentives for people to buy life insurance, the penetration would not be much higher than what we see in the Middle East. And this is as well something important to understand. We have some local dynamics coming in, but there are some normal dynamics of people who are not necessarily aware of life insurance products. And this is our role as insurance industry leaders to make sure that we push and we communicate and we educate the population towards the understanding of these products.
Absolutely. Actually, I was thrilled with what Dalal said this morning about this fintech-based future leaders, this product and this digitization spree that I may call. And it's really amazing to see there is some sort of progressive thinking in our banks, insurance companies towards savings. I'd like to ask maybe Omar and then maybe other delegates, how much internal thinking and strategization is going on in the insurance companies and banking towards innovating, expanding, enriching saving products? And how much the savings line, the saving business represents in terms of your revenue growth, because at the end of the day, you are also financial institutions. You need to generate revenues and profits for you and your shareholders.
Yes, thank you, Brian. With regards to our internal thinking, how much of it, I think that's definitely one of our main priorities from let's say 5 years back and going forward. We've started targeting these savings plans more deeply, with trying to develop new products over time. And when you talk about why we're developing these products, I mean, there's a lot of need now arising. One of these is because there is uncertainty surrounding the pension fund in Bahrain. There's people are worrying, especially the younger generation, that by the time they retire, what's going to happen to the pension scheme? Are the benefits going to be skimmed down to a level where they can't, retire or solely on that? Because the culture here in Bahrain, and you'll understand that people rely very heavily on their retirement salary from the pension scheme. And I think internationally, this is not the case. People need to save up, put some money aside, invest in other places. So that change in mentality starts with the younger generation, where they have that concern and uncertainty, and therefore they try to look for these other ways to invest their money and save up for their retirement. So that's the main reason why, and what we're targeting that, as well as the increase in education costs, like I said before. There's that trend, and we do not see that trend stopping anywhere soon. People need to save for their children's educations. They need to do it in a safe way, in a secure way. A good way is to have to serve two objectives: life insurance and an investment policy at the same time. So definitely a priority for us. And there are other ways where I think Mohamed spoke about, which are the employee savings programs. And I think these are ways that the employer can step in and help these employees save up for their retirements. And like Mohamed said, the employer can offer a contribution from his side, the employee can pay a contribution from his side, and then by the time they serve a certain period and they want to leave the company, they're entitled to a certain amount. And that amount has an investment return element to that. So that's actually an even easier way for an employee to invest and to ask for a return, because what they do is they agree with the company that as soon as the salary comes in, it's automatically deducted from that salary. So they're committing to that. And I think that's one of the most difficult steps, is to commit. So the employer actually assists the employee in that, from that perspective.
Dalal, what do you like to add to what you said earlier and to what Mr. Omar said from the BISB side?
To us, saving consider a key pillar to the way we operate. From basic saving accounts, that's the sign of any bank liquidities, correct? Saving a current account is the most important sign of the bank asset to deposit ratio and liquidities. So there is no way that as a bank will operate without the basic products. But when we look at from innovation and saving team product specifically, I think it's considered from our key pillar. It's a journey started back in 2017, and it's going dynamic. It's keep changing as the culture and the economy change. And I think one of the basic product to increase the saving part is back in 2018 beginning, we were one of the leads bank in offering fully onboarded through mobile applications. Till today, we have different combined product from basic to very complicated to what I have highlighted recently is even targeting youth and kids more than youth. But yes, I don't think in a financial industry we could live without it. I think it's taking a bigger share than what used to be before, and it's a key for our operation.
Excellent, Mohamed. I'll come to you, and I'd like to also maybe reiterate your announcement that AXA tomorrow is launching what can be a complement to this conference, which is a new thinking on retirement and end of service benefit. And AXA is organizing that forum. We look forward. I myself will be participating. But Mr. Mohammed and maybe Patrick, you come from this background, and I mean, there are a lot of expats in the MENA region, but more concentratedly is in the GCC. More than 50% of the workforce are expat workers and families working, living in the GCC. This is a massive number in terms of demographic. I mean, if this 50% of the GCC demographics start saving and using banks and insurance providers in the region, the dynamic, the economics will be totally different. What are you doing as insurance companies, as asset managers, as banks to convince, to persuade these expat families, hundreds of thousands of them in the GCC, to start saving, and to start saving in banks and insurance providers that are domiciled and operating in the GCC, please? Especially referring to your also this employee secure savers.
Yeah, thank you, Ebrahim. Welcome to you for attending tomorrow webinar that we have on the same topic. Actually, it's for me the question actually is really the most important one. So how do we actually address expats' concerns around the savings that they need to get, especially that when you look at many of these expats, they come from countries where they actually have savings vehicles. So there is no like education on pure saving as such, but there is an education for them to get the savings during their service in the GCC. And there is a very often observation that they are being put off by the lack of products, the lack of protective jurisdiction. So there is a lack of trust. Sometimes they have the impression that the way the money is going to be managed or whatever by the companies is not in their best interest. And I think that this has changed a lot in the last years. I've seen a lot of changes in regulation in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, to be much more protective towards the customers for the life insurance product and the saving. And this is an ongoing exercise, and that's why as well for me it was making more sense to go through the corporate products first and individual then, because it's easier to convince a company, which can then be the good relay for the education of the employees, because it will be through HR, through other sectors. They will actually engage the discussion with their own employees. And for me, it was the best way to have it through the corporates. Through the individuals, it's a huge education. It's a huge effort. It's a question of years, to educate the population on why they will need that. Especially once again, there is no tax, income tax in the region as of now. So many people have the impression, that they can just enjoy their life and without really thinking of saying, I need to optimize my savings towards a tax goal, like you would see in Europe, but even towards their own goal. And that's something that I'm working on as well, is to have a kind of financial assessment for the individuals, because sometimes actually people don't realize that what they expect at retirement, it's 80% of their last salary. But when you saved only 8%, like in the UAE with the end of service benefits, you save 8% of your salary, you cannot expect to get 80% of the salary after your retirement age.
Thank you, Mohamed. I think our time is over, and I'd like to remind the speakers and delegates that this session is recorded and will be put on our websites maybe as of tomorrow, and it can be seen again and shared with your institutions and delegates as often as you want. But I'd like to conclude this session by giving each of our distinguished panelists maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute maximum to tell us what they like, or they hope, or they wish to see changed. I mean, what's their hope, what's their aspirations as far as the saving solutions, the saving accounts, and the saving space proceeds forwards in the near future. I'd like to start with Patrick.
Thank you, Ebrahim. Maybe I will take it again from the perspective of the retirement. And I think it's a good transition to what Mohamed said. I think there are different elements to consider in order to have a proper saving at retirement. There should be a government decision to facilitate this. And I think it has been done in Dubai with the DIFC switching from DB to DC last year, or 2 years ago, I don't remember exactly. Then I think employers should play a role as well by facilitating, by setting up, a retirement plan for their employee. And then finally, there should be education towards employees. And I think we do now have a lot of tools like robo advisory services that can help people to understand how much they need to save and how much they will get at the end. And I think if we combine all this, we are going in the right direction.
Omar?
Yes, I think Patrick put it almost perfectly. And if I'm just going to add to that is that start as early as possible when you're considering these savings plans and policies. Talk to your employer, tell them if they offer these kinds of employee savings plans locally. And I think even if you believe that right now financially you cannot put money aside, you need to, I think, prioritize just how much you're willing to maintain that standard of living now while sacrificing your standard of living in the future. So it's just a priority shift that should be considered when looking at this. And I think that the individual, when they want to contact if they contact the insurance company, for example, it's very easy for them to find out what kind of products they have available. So I think the easiest way is to contact your local banks, your local insurance companies, just to find out what kind of products they have. Talk to your employer, ask them, do you have these contribution plans, or should we set up these contribution plans? Figure out how much, or figure out at least what you're trying to, what you're considering as a standard of living in the future. How much do you need to save aside? So accumulate all these aspects together and see whether this is sufficient enough for you to retire on.
Shukran. Dalal?
I would like to start, Ebrahim, first with thanking you and thanking the panelists. I found the session extremely valuable. Good information that has not been available to myself earlier. But what I would love to see from a personal level, I would love to see a government engine which drive mandating saving. Today, yes, there is a saving contribution, which is the GUSI, but mainly for employed, correct? And there is nothing for the household, nothing for the children, nothing for the unemployed, nothing for the private sector or SME. So if there is an engine that is being built, can be privatized in the future, but mandate a certain contribution from a certain age with a certain structure, I think it will force people to save. People may be reluctant in the beginning, but then as it goes, it will become a culture, it will become a habit, and it will be built with us, and it's part of our expenses that we have to bear in day to day. Yes, I
promise you, Dalal, this will be on top of the key takeaways from the conference in our report, and it could be probably published in a report or a press release. I love that.
Yeah, I think lovely national engine. It could be put in a way of a board, different sectors sit on it, whether it's a government, insurance company, banks, come up with a culture, come with a structure that's mandated for the government, take a best practice from different countries like Sweden, Japan. There is a country has got a good saving scheme. And I think that doesn't surprise me. Kingdom of Bahrain Sabaqa, we always take a lead for our people, and I'm sure one day this will happen. I'm confident.
Thank you so much, Mohamed. Ma qassarti. Well done. Mohamed, we are concluding this session with you with your handsome face, Mohamed.
Thank you. Thank you. For me, I will only repeat what has been said before. Clearly, there is the government involvement, which is very key. But I will even go a bit broader than that. It's a whole market industry that we need to set up. There is not a pension industry as such. So I would like to thank you, Ebrahim, as well for this kind of events, because you are clearly the one structuring for me the pension industry in the region. And I think that's what we need. There are many people, actually my peer panelists here, that I didn't know before, and I really like the exchanges, and I think we will exchange even after this event. Then there is the technology part, clearly. What you do, actually, in terms of technology, I think it's something which is very important, robo-advisors and so on. There is the product as well. We need to have the right actuaries, the right people who can design the product, and the right people who are trained to sell the product, which is the last bit, which is very often missing. These pension products are very often bought by the customers, but we're not selling to them, saying that those who actually buy them, it's because they were looking for it. They were actually looking for it, but we did not manage to create the need in them to take it. And for me, as a conclusion, I would just say that as much as pension is a long-term goal for our customers, this is as well a long-term effort for us as an industry.
Thank you so much, Mohamed. I'd like to thank my distinguished panelists and friends, Dalal from Bahrain Islamic Bank, Omar Al Aseeri from BNL, Patrick from Amandi, and Mohamed Seghir from AXA Green Crescent. I'd like to thank you so much for your time, for your great insights, and personally look forward to connecting with you soon, inshallah. And I wish you all the best, and thank you so much on behalf of our delegates. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ebrahim. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you. Bye.